did. So Jaron Reed would be the player with his 10.5 sacks that I think deserves at least some pub as a breakout player of the year candidate.
No, I agree with it. I agree with you totally. Chris Jones deserves the whole package.
15.5 sacks, it's insane.
Nah, and thing about it is he did it week in and week out.
Yeah.
You know, and it's proven out, and we'll see this weekend what he can do. But he's done some really impressive things, you know, and I wasn't a big fan of him coming out, you know, and of course I missed him. But the son of a gun, he's got double-digit sacks, you know, and rushing inside, outside, doing the whole package. I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah, it really is. I can't argue with that one. I guess I might be wearing some blue sunglasses right now a little bit, but
that's all right. I wear it too, brother. Just so you know.
So, well, let's move on. And so, Coach of the Year. Again, I'm going to show a little bit of blue because I thought that Pete Carroll deserved. I would argue that this was Pete Carroll's best year as a coach in Seattle. I mean, they won the Super Bowl a couple of years back. They were far and away the most gifted team that year, and frankly, I thought that John Schneider should deserve some acknowledgement as Executive of the Year back then. But for my Coach of the Year this year, I'm going to go different. And I think that Sean McVay is probably going to win. And, and I think that he deserves a lot of credit. But again, I think that team is just so ridiculously talented that I believe that they should win some games. But Frank Reich and the job that he did in Indianapolis, I mean, the Colts are playing really good ball right now. They're playing our style of ball, Scott, as you well know. And they start off 1-5. And for him
no. Yeah, I can stop you there. I'm totally with you. Frank Reich, hands down. You know, Pete's done a great job. There ain't no doubt about it. Frank Reich, holy smokes. You know, and you got to give credit to Ballard.
Certainly.
Ed Dodds, who's a director of player personnel.
Yes.
They identified football players, and they brought them in the building. And for them to be in the second round of the playoffs, you know, the quarterback's playing well, don't get me wrong. I mean, and he's a really, really good player.
Yeah.
But still, the head coach is the one that has to control the locker room, control the pregame, control after the game. And I think Frank's done a really good job.
I agree. I mean, to me, 1-5. We started off 1-5, and you bring that back, and now we're in the second round of the playoffs with who knows how far they could go with that team. I think that he deserves that award. And then finally, Executive of the Year. We mentioned Chris Ballard, and I think that he deserves that opportunity. And while the Chicago Bears and they didn't have the successful playoff experience that they were hoping for, I still think that Ryan Pace deserves some credit. But for me, I'm giving it to Mickey Loomis. And the reason why is because I completely disagreed with their bold move to move up for the pass rusher Marcus Davenport, and I could not have been more wrong. I thought that the Saints recognized that their window with Drew Brees was closing, and that Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton and the rest of the Saints organization realized the time was now, and I just give them the biggest tip of the cap for the guts to make the big trade that they made, and then for the fact that they have just built that team around Drew Brees the way that they have. So for me, Mickey Loomis of the Saints, I think deserves Executive of the Year consideration.
All four of them do.
Yeah.
But one guy you left out, they won one game in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
John Dorsey.
I agree with you. I can't disagree with that. I do want to give, if I give Dorsey too much credit, I'm going to sound like a homer, but as far as.
But it's proven on the field.
It is.
Yeah. Ballard done a heck of a job.
Yeah.
Mickey's done a heck of a job.
Yep.
Dorsey's done a phenomenal job from the standpoint. The organization wasn't tight.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he made it tight, and he said, this way we're going to roll. We're going to do this, this, and this. Not just in the draft, but in free agency.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And then to go through that transition, you make the decision to move on from Hugh Jackson, and you move on with Greg Williams, and then to be able to keep things organized and keep it running tight, as you said. I think that, And if we go back to the draft, of course, I mean, it was kind of assumed by a lot of people, myself included, that all right, number 4, you're going to make the choice of Baker Mayfield. Now, at number 4 overall, you're going to take Bradley Chubb. And then to go with Denzel Ward and for that pick to play out the way it has, I mean, you could make the argument that Denzel Ward deserves to be the defensive player or defensive rookie of the year. I mean, spectacular season. Sure. So, yeah, I agree. I think Dorsey deserves it. And then not just that, it's kind of like we talked about before with Sean Payton, and maybe he deserves kind of a bigger award for, more than just this year. People forget, you of course don't, but people forget that it was Dorsey, of course, who, made that trade or made the move for Patrick Mahomes. So he deserves some credit for what happened in Kansas City and their success as well. So you're not going to get a big argument from me. I think John Dorsey deserves a heck of a lot of credit.
But you know what? All 4, all 5, whatever, they're all good personnel guys, and it just depends how it shakes out. But again, not just good personnel guys, because they'll listen to the people that are around them, but also good people, plain and simple. And I think that's so important in the NFL because people in the building, not just players, but coaches, secretaries, janitors, they all feel it. They all feel the positiveness. And, it's incredible. I've been lucky enough to be around a couple of organizations and be able to be that way. And I think it's so important that they understand, I trust in you. I trust in you to do what you're going to do. And Dorsey did that this year, free agency in the draft. And that's why they won the games. You know what? And all it's going to do is get better and better and better. I promise you.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of Cleveland Browns fans out there that are really excited about it because I agree with you, and obviously you have the picks and the young talent in that team to be able to do that, and of course you've got the biggest thing, you've got the young quarterback who has that talent, just as excited as can be.
That's huge. It's huge.
Well, finally, our fourth quarter here, we got of course these big divisional round playoff games real quick. So rather than trying to break them down quickly, I was going to kind of ask you if you had a thought on quick winners. If not, I'm definitely going to say who I think are going to win the game. So I'm just going to start off with the AFC divisional playoffs. The Colts are going to start off on the road against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are just too much at home. I am going to go with the Chiefs. I do think the Colts have a very good chance in this game just because I love the way they're playing ball right now. But for the reasons that we talked about before, the Chiefs, I think, is just too explosive on offense, and that's why I have the Chiefs winning that game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Not just from the standpoint of talent, because they both have talent, as everybody does. The home field advantage is huge. Huge.
Yeah, I just think that pass rush at Kansas City's, that Indianapolis has done a spectacular job. Andrew Luck has done a spectacular job getting the ball out of his hands. I don't know that they're going to be able to just keep up with Kansas City's offense. I think that the Luck and the Colts will get their points. I think they can get their 20, 24 points. I think it's going to take more than that to keep up with the Chiefs, and so that's why I'm going with them. What about the Dallas and the Rams? Same kind of thing here. I think when it's all said and done, the Rams offense is just a little bit too explosive, although I will say this, whether it be Dallas or if Seattle had beaten Dallas, I think the Rams are vulnerable. We've seen teams be able to run the football down the Rams' throat. I don't believe that the Rams are going to have nearly the home field advantage that Kansas City would have. And so that's why I think that a team that can run the ball and play good defense the way that Dallas can, I think that gives them a puncher's chance in this game. But again, when it's all said and done, I think that Jared Goff is the more accurate quarterback than Dak Prescott, and I think that they're going to score more points, and that's ultimately, obviously, what would be the deciding factor. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I do. I'd take the Rams. It's going to be a close game. It depends on Gurley. If he's healthy enough to play, 50 snaps, 60 snaps.
Yeah.
I think, with McVay, he's going to detect them and understand how to beat them. I don't think the Cowboys can do that. I really don't. I think the Rams win, but it's going to be a close game.
Exactly. I think it's going to be, to me, all 4 games, I think, set up to be very, very entertaining and close games. The game I'm actually the most interested in is the Chargers and the Patriots. And I think this could be the game where we see Bill Belichick and Tom Brady have a relatively early exit from the playoffs. Now, of course, there's got some people right now are turning me off, Scott, because they're like, yeah, well, people have been saying that for a decade.
Me too, just so you know.
and I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just because I've been a Phillip Rivers fan for a long time, and I just like to see the Chargers kind of get over the top and see what they could do if they were ever to get to an AFC Championship game and see if they could make that Super Bowl run. I do like the way the Chargers are kind of trending with getting some of their players back, Hunter Henry and, of course, Joey Bosa. I think the Patriots are vulnerable, but it is Tom Brady. And so I'm going to take the Chargers, but I realize if there is a game I'm going to be wrong on, this is probably the one.
You're crazy. You never bet against Tom Brady, ever. Ever. You know what though? But I'm with you. I want the Chargers to win. I'm pulling for Phillip.
Yeah.
I know they're getting their guys back. That is very important. But it's just one of those things. If I was a betting man, which I'm not,
yeah,
I'd bet on Tom Brady no matter what.
Well, I certainly can't.
I hate to say it because I'm not a big fan. I am a big fan, but I'm not a fan because he's so freaking good.
I hear you. I think there's a lot of people here that were kind of rooting against Alabama for the exact same reason. It's like respect, but you want to see somebody else win one. And so that was
correct.
Okay, well, finally, last game, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, it beat the Chicago Bears, in that, kind of a crazy wild card game there. Going against the New Orleans Saints, who I talked about before. I think that they are the team to beat right now. I really like the way that they're playing. So I already kind of let the cat out of the bag. I am going to go with the New Orleans Saints in this game. And if there is a game that I think could be more than a 10-point winner, then I think it's this one. I think the Saints have a chance, have an opportunity possibly to really control this game. But again, you got to give a tip of the cap to the Philadelphia Eagles for the resiliency they showed in beating Chicago in Chicago. So, there definitely is a team there that has that. They've been there. They've done that, obviously, as defending Super Bowl champions. I just am going with the Saints in this one.
Well, you got to, and Foles it's incredible what he's been able to do. It's too bad Wentz has what he had to go through with injuries and all that.
Yeah.
But nah, I've been in that stadium. I watched games in that stadium with a team I worked for. It's not an easy place to play, and I'm telling you, with Drew Brees, that's why I said I think he's the MVP because nothing phases him. He's gonna step up and do it. Foles is cool. Don't get me wrong. He's a calm guy and all that, but talent for talent. New Orleans wins. It's not. I'm with you. It's not gonna be a game, but I wish it would be because it's two good teams. But Saints are gonna roll. And they're ready for it. They had a week off. They can't wait.
Well, and I can't wait as well. We have a lot of good, exciting football that's coming up this weekend, and I hope that all of our listeners out there will be watching, be writing down all these different winners that Scott and I are trying to pick out for you because we've been fairly successful this year for people who've been listening in. Well, that wraps it up this week. Thank you so much for listening and supporting the Instinctive Scouting Podcast. This and prior episodes are always available for free and immediate download at NFLDraftScout.com or at Spotify, at Spreaker, at iHeartMedia. For my buddy Scot McCloughan, this is Rob Rang signing off on the ISP. Catch you next week.